Hello everyone, James Wilson here. And what I'm going to do, this is not a final election prediction video, but what this is my election predictions so far now, based on certain raw data, polling, and votes tabulated. That's part of the data. Okay, and let me explain to you how I do this. Okay, so before I get started on this, I will say this. When I make my election prediction, my final election prediction is going to be on Halloween or November 1st, one of those 2 days. As I've been saying, the polling is off. It always has been. Okay, that's how I feel. Rather be the virus or any other reason, as stated in previous videos, I do feel that the polling is off, and it favors the Democrats. Okay, so there's a few rules I'm going to do regarding these states. Obviously Texas is now a red state, as I stated in my previous video. So if Donald Trump is leading in the polls in any of these states in beige, I'm going to mark it red. Okay, that's rule number one. Rule number two, if Biden is leading in the polls, I'm going to do some more digging and some more information. I'm also going to look at how much he's leading in the polls by. And I'm going to look at raw data from Target Smart, okay, and see if the Republicans are overperforming. If the Republicans are overperforming their 2016 numbers, then I will give the state to Donald Trump, regardless of what the poll says, okay. And I'll go into the Target Smart in a few minutes, but before I do that, I want to go over the polls real quick, okay. And go ahead and I'm going to blow this up a little bit here. Okay, so Trump is leading right here, okay. You can take a look at it. Trump is leading in Florida and Georgia and Ohio, okay. And I already have Texas as red. So Florida, Georgia, and Ohio are going to be red automatically. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the same thing during the final prediction. Whoever's ahead in the polls, if Trump is ahead in the polls, I'm giving it to Donald Trump. Okay, so looking at the map, very simple. Ohio goes to Trump. Okay, Ohio goes to Trump, Georgia, and Florida. So now you're at 228 to 212. So the states I'm going to have to look at are Arizona, Nevada, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and North Carolina. Okay, and this can change if Trump pulls ahead in North Carolina, or Trump is losing in Florida or Georgia. This can change. But this is what I'm giving Trump at this point. These are the states that I'm giving Donald Trump. Okay, so now let's go ahead and analyze the Target Smart data. Okay, and we will start with the state of Arizona. Okay, and I'm going to talk about the data real quick and explain what this entitles. So the Republicans in this particular situation, the Republicans are underperforming. The first thing that I look at is 2016. In 2016, the Republicans had the lead in early voting. Okay, they had the lead in early voting by about 67,000 votes. Okay, now it is flipped. The Democrats have the lead in early voting. I do believe this could be partially because of the virus. We're in a pandemic. Okay, so when I take a look at this, Republicans are underperforming in 2016. So I can't give it. I can't just give it to Donald Trump. Okay, so that's the first thing that I look at. The second thing that I look at is the percentage of votes that were already cast. And so, kind of the rule is, and this is an assumption, obviously it's not going to be exactly the case, but I don't have who voted who. Okay? I just have Democrat, Republican, and unaffiliated. So the way I do this is the Democrats, all the votes go to Joe Biden. On the Republicans, all the votes go to Donald Trump. Okay, and unaffiliated is 50-50. Okay, so I kind of just scratched the unaffiliated out and just went by this raw data. Now, of course, there could be more unaffiliated voting for Joe Biden. There could be some more unaffiliated voting for Donald Trump. I don't know. I can go by is the data that I have. Okay. So Arizona casted 1,585,566. Okay, so 1,585,566 votes, which is 61.6% of the total votes. So the way I calculated this is, and this is also part of the math, is I'm just assuming that all the states have the same votes as 2016. I know it's going to change. I know Arizona probably will have a little bit more voting. Maybe a state, other states may have less voting. I don't know exactly. I'm just going by 2016 numbers. So it's projected that there's an additional 1,019,091. So about 1 million votes. Okay. And the way I calculate this is when you look at this number here, the Democrats have about 775K, Republicans have 714K. That's 61,000 votes. The Democrats have a 61,000 vote lead. With about 1 million votes left to go, you're looking at about 6%. You're looking at about a 6% difference. Okay, and so the Republicans are underperforming here. Okay, that's what that tells me. Could the Republicans get 6%? Could they take the lead? It's possible. Okay. But I will tell you, as far as the trends are concerned, this state has trended blue heavily. Okay? And Republicans are underperforming. That is not a good sign. Okay? So, with that in mind, I have to give it to Joe Biden. Based on that alone, based on the trends, based on the polling, we go take a look at the polling. Biden has a 2.4% lead in the polls, okay? And Republicans are underperforming early voting compared to last time, and it is trending blue heavily. Right now, I don't have a choice. I have to give it to Joe Biden. Now, during election time, could Republicans make up the difference? Absolutely. But I'm going based on trends. The polls, trends, and the way this is going does not look good for Republicans. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and give that to Joe Biden. Now, if Republicans are overperforming their 2016 numbers, I would give it to Donald Trump with the exception of Nevada. The reason why is because Nevada does all their votes by mail-in. The majority of it is by mail-ins. Okay, so when election day comes, it's not going to be this big Republican surge. not like in other states like Florida and North Carolina. I mean, there's not going to be this Republican surge because they're mailing in their ballots. So the way I look at this is I look at the polls and see who's leading in the state. So let's go ahead and take a look at Nevada. Okay, Nevada. Okay, so in 2016, the Democrats had a 56,000 vote lead in Nevada, and now that has shrunk to 22,000. But that could be partially because of the mail-ins. You have both Democrats and Republicans mailing in their votes. Okay, but this is pretty simple. The Democrats have the lead. You know, Hillary Clinton won it last time. Trump underperformed in the state. He's losing in the state. Okay, and if you look at Real Clear Politics, you're looking at the polling here. Let's take a look at the polling. Okay, Nevada, he's down by 4.6%. Okay, so when you look at that fact that he's down 4.6%, they're doing all mail-in ballots, so there's not going to be this Republican surge on November 3rd, and the Democrats are winning. I come to the conclusion that Joe Biden would win the state. Okay, and so that can change. If the numbers change, it'll change. You know. So far, I mean, right now we're at a close race. I'm going to move on to Iowa, and right now in Iowa, I can tell you that Biden has a 1.4% lead in the state of Iowa. So it's not that big of a lead. So let's take a look at the state, and let me go ahead and analyze it. Okay, so in the state of Iowa, you can tell between the difference of 2016, you have a 13% advantage for the Democrats, and this went down to about 8%, 8.5%. So it looks like the Republicans are overperforming a little bit. When you look at the numbers, okay, 59,000 vote Democrat lead. Here it's 62,000, so it's 59,000 versus 62,000. That's not much of a difference, folks, and we're in a pandemic, okay? So when you have the Democrats gaining 3,000 votes compared to last time on you, and you're in a pandemic, that doesn't look very good for Democrats, folks. And Trump won it last time by 9.5%. He's only down in the polls by 1.4. Okay, so based on that logic alone, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Donald Trump. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the state of Minnesota. Okay, and this is how I interpret the data. Obviously, the total votes can change. They will change. I'm just going by what I have now. And so when you look at it, both Republicans and Democrats underperformed, and unaffiliated voters went up. So they're not really, and as I said, I'm doing everything by model party, okay? So, so in the state of Minnesota, you had 1,214,529 votes casted. When you looked at the 2016 votes, there's a total of 2,944,813. That's a difference of 1,730,824. The Democrats, when you look at this here, the Democrats are overperforming last time. Okay, they have a 211,000 vote lead. Okay, and 44% of the votes. 41% of the votes was casted, okay? And so you're looking at a difference of 1,730,284. So 1.73 million votes have not been casted yet, assuming that the numbers are the same as 2016 as far as the total votes. So, you have a 211,000 votes you have to gain out of 1.73 million. That's 12%. Okay? So the Republicans have to gain at least 12% between now and election day. And that's actually, when I looked at all the states, it's actually very high for the state. Okay? And when you couple that with Donald Trump lost last time. He's losing in the polls. He's down by 6%. Yeah, he's down by 6%. Okay? That's not good for Donald Trump. The fact that he lost last time and down by 6% and he has to gain 211,000 votes leads me to believe that Joe Biden's going to win the state of Minnesota. Okay? And so we're going to move on to Wisconsin. In the state of Wisconsin, when you look at the figures, it's about 44% completed. If you compare to last time in 2016, the Democrats had a 68,000 vote lead. Now the Democrats have a 50,000 vote lead. When you look at it based on percentages, right now the Democrats have a 4% lead, but before the Democrats had about a 12% lead. That's an 8% difference in favor of the Republicans. And they're going to come out and vote on November 3rd. Okay? So when you look at this model, the Republicans are overperforming. I mean, we're in a pandemic, folks. Okay? And so when you have the Republicans with more votes the difference in voting is better this time for Republicans. And since Democrats, they want to do their mail-ins, they want to vote earlier, this actually doesn't look good for Joe Biden. Okay? So I'm actually going to go ahead and and I'm looking at the polls. Now, I will tell you this. The polls were inaccurate. Okay, in the state of Wisconsin, they were really, really poor. Okay, and right now, Biden has a 5.5% lead. But when Hillary Clinton, with Hillary Clinton, she had about a 5.7% lead. Okay, the polls were that off, and since the Republicans are overperforming in the state of Wisconsin compared to last time, and we are in a pandemic, they should not be overperforming. I would definitely going to give this to Donald Trump. I'm actually pretty confident that Donald Trump's going to win the state of Wisconsin based on those figures alone. Okay, and let's go ahead to New Hampshire here, because I want to talk about this real quick. New Hampshire. Okay, they haven't really voted yet. We don't know. Okay, actually no, I take that back. They casted 16.7%, 124,000 votes. It's just there's not a lot of data. It looks like there's no data from 2016, but when you look at it here, there's more Democrats. Okay. And when you look at the polling for New Hampshire, the polling is abysmal. It's really, really bad for Donald Trump. So actually, it's not even part of the battleground section. I actually kind of have to look at it here. When you look at it, Joe Biden is leading by double digits. Now, I do believe the polls are off, but I don't know if they're that off. Okay? And so the conservative move in this situation is to go ahead and give it to Joe Biden. Because there's not a lot of information, but when you're up by double digits in the polls, it's very difficult to give it to the person that's down by that much. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it to Joe Biden. And let's go ahead and take a look at North Carolina. I want to do Pennsylvania last. So North Carolina. Okay. So when you look at North Carolina, it's very interesting. It's kind of like Wisconsin. The Republicans are trailing by 5.5% in 2020, But last time they were trailing by over 11%. Okay? So that's about a 6% difference in favor of the Republicans. And when you look at this voting here, look at this 2016, huge advantage for the Democrats. Okay? You're looking at about 344,000 votes or something. Yeah, 344,000 vote lead for the Democrats. Now it has tightened up. Okay? So in North Carolina, the Democrats have 175,000 vote lead. Now, I will say this. 66% of the votes were casted. That's not necessarily good for Republicans, okay? Because Republicans, in order to win, they have to get at least 175,000 more votes out of 1,615,347. Now, there could be more voting, but that's 11% of the votes. So they have to come out and vote big on election day, okay? But this is promising. These numbers are promising here. And since the polling, you look at the polling, okay, go back into North Carolina. Take a look at the polling here. Biden's ahead by 0.7, okay? And I know Donald Trump overperformed his numbers last time, and it's only a 0.7 difference. So with that information, I'm giving it to Donald Trump, okay? Because I think they can make some ground. I think there's a lot of Republicans that are left to vote. They haven't voted yet. And from what I heard, some Democrats may vote for Donald Trump. I don't know. It's kind of a weird state because they vote Democrat on the local elections, but they'll vote Republican for presidential. So with them being up by only 0.7 and they're overperforming last time numbers by percentages and by raw votes, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Donald Trump. Let's move to the state of Michigan. Okay? In the state of Michigan, Democrats have a 4.8% lead. And before that, Democrats had a 2.4% lead. So it's actually very close. Okay? But we're in a pandemic, folks. You know? So let's take a look real quick here. 20,000 vote lead last time for the Democrats in 2016. Now it's 105,000. So that's about an 85,000 vote difference. So it's about 105,000 vote lead for the Democrats. They only casted 45% of the ballots. Okay? So Republicans can still make ground. When I took a look at the total amount of votes, 4,799,284 and 2,155,779 has been casted. That's a difference of 2,643,505. And when you take 105,000 vote lead for the Democrats, that's 4%. Okay, so yeah, Republicans can get an extra 4%, folks. I mean, they're going to come out on election day and vote. Okay, so we're looking pretty good here. As I said, all the unaffiliated voters, I just went 50-50. I have no idea. I'm just going by what I can see in this data. But we are in a pandemic, so I do expect Democrats to overperform Republicans, and it's not that much of a difference. When you look at the difference from 2016, it's 2.4. 2020 is 4.8. Okay, that's a 2.4% difference between 2016 and 2020. That's not a big difference, folks. And when you look at the raw vote, yeah, it's 105,000 vote lead for the Democrats. But when you actually calculate based on the difference, there's still a lot of votes out there. It's only 4%. Okay, you can easily make that up. So with that information, and Trump won it last time, and I know the polls are really bad for him. But when I take a look at the polls, they're all over the place, to be honest with you. So let's take a look at the polls for Michigan. Okay. I know that, see, this polling here had Trump up by 1. And, I mean, it's just really bad, but the polls don't make any sense. When you take a look at the polls, and you take a look at actually what's going on in the trenches, they're two complete deals, okay? And I discussed in my other videos, I discussed that the state of Michigan, the way they voted was in between Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Trump did gain support in this state. Not quite as much support as Pennsylvania, but he gained support, okay? So since he gained support, this is a very difficult and tough state to predict. But since Democrats were supposed to outvote Republicans big time, and they really haven't done it yet in this state, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Trump. So right now, Trump is ahead, 275 to 243. Okay? And so the last state I want to talk about is Pennsylvania. Okay? When you look at the state of Pennsylvania, the Democrats are out voting Republicans big time. It's not even close, okay? They only cast at 27.6% of the votes, 1,702,115, and that's about a 618,000 vote difference. There's a difference of 4,463,363 votes. There's not... that's a lot of votes to make up, folks. You know, I know that Pennsylvania they'll vote later. So it's possible that Republicans can make up that ground. You need to make up 618,000 votes. With 4,463,363, that's 14% of the votes, folks. That's a lot of votes, okay? And when you look at it, last time the Democrats, the Republicans did better in 2016. Democrats are beating them big time, okay? I didn't go through all the counties and who voted where, and I didn't go over any of that. But this is huge, folks. All right, this is huge. So right now, and this could change. This can change. Just before the election, when I calculated my, when I calculate my final prediction, it can change if this thing changes. If it doesn't change, unless the polls change, I might give it to Trump. I might relook at it. Now, when you look at the polls in Pennsylvania. Donald Trump, this is the weirdest thing because when you look at it, Donald Trump is doing better in Pennsylvania than he is in Michigan, okay? And he's up 3.8%. He's down 3.8%, okay? But as I said, I know this data is kind of flawed because most of this is mail-in ballots. They mailed in a lot of ballots, okay? So, I know that they vote late. I'll just have to look at it before Election Day, I guess, I'll have to look at the polling. I'm going to have to look at this and just kind of make a determination on who wins the state. So, that's it. Right now, based on the information that I have on hand, I'm trying to be as accurate as possible. I do have Maine 2nd District going to Trump. But right now, Trump wins the election. 275 electoral votes to Biden, 263 electoral votes. Let me know what you think about this. As I said, it's very interesting. But like and subscribe to my channel. Any comments would be greatly appreciated. Any comments about Pennsylvania or Arizona, anything that you're kind of weird, questioning about, Be great with the comments. Thanks a lot. Have a good night. Bye bye.